Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show. The show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for February 2022. My name is Jonathan Leung. I'm the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how you doing?
Just over here trying to get warm.
Yeah, it's been really cold here, guys. Unfortunately, we've been, Tim, I don't know, I guess we're iced in technically would be the term, yes?
Yeah, I would think so.
So it wasn't too bad for the most part. I think they scared us more than anything, Tim, just with all the, it's like, oh, it's going to be terrible, and it ended up being not too bad, but we did get a lot of precipitation, so rain, snow, and sleet, and all this kind of stuff. And it looks like over the next, 2 days, it's going to be way below freezing. So just so Tim didn't have to drive over here and risk the funky roads, we went ahead and did this one remote. So, but it's still good to have you here, Tim. Good to have all of you here with us as well. And we're going to cover some great arcade repair questions from you guys, along with some news. And Tim even has a tech tip for us this month, which is great as well. But before we get into that, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, John. We both, I think I battled my battle with COVID, and it's been about 2 weeks. I'm still kind of feeling still a little bit of fatigue and a little bit of soreness, but overall, feel a lot better and back to work, and glad to be over that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tim, I had the same thing. It took me a while after I had COVID to kind of fully recover. Even like at the last live show, you guys may remember I still felt a little weak at that point, Tim. So the fatigue, unfortunately, kind of lingers, but once you get over it, you do get back to normal. So I'm glad to hear that you're on the road to recovery, and hopefully you'll get back to normal soon. I know it sucks kind of having low energy and everything like that, so, just hoping that you can get back to normal very quickly. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and check in with the live chat, Tim, before we move on to our outline here. Geek Light is here tonight, Tim. Mina is here. Delusionals Arcade is here, Tim. We got Mr. Dwayne79 who says hello, everyone, and go Bengals, Tim. Let's see, we have the real Hammer Billy Lee who says, hey, what is up? We got Cybermind Arcade is here. Lots of people here in the live chat, and we're so glad to have you guys with us tonight. And remember, if you're watching this live, that you can interact with us during the show by leaving your comments and questions in the live chat. Me and Tim will try to answer those as we go on with the show. But of course, we have a whole slew of questions that you guys have sent in over the past month that we intend to cover on this show. So we have our outline ready, Tim, and I don't see any questions or comments in the live chat. Oh, YouTube Punk just said hi, Tim, as well. So YouTube Punk is here too. So I think we're caught up with the live chat at the moment, so we'll go ahead and move on with our outline, Tim. Oh, you see, I had to say something, Tim. We have more people. NTR President is here, and there you go. So I think I'm caught up. We're good? I think we're good. Okay, Tim, so let's go ahead and get into the outline, but before we do, I do want to do a follow-up from the previous episode. Tim, you may remember a question from Tanya that involved a arcade game with no sound. Now, we found out that It was a PC-based arcade game, Tim, so me and Tanya exchanged some emails back and forth, and eventually she sent this response. She said, I plugged in some old headphones I had into the 3.5mm jack on the PC, and we are getting sound. Would you suggest just getting speakers? And Tim, I sent her back this reply. I just said, yes, you could plug in some speakers if you wanted to. That is probably the easiest solution. Otherwise, you would probably need a replacement Holland Computers PC to JAMA adapter and possibly a replacement speaker as well. Hope that helps. So, Tim, she was using the Holland Computers PC to JAMA adapter, which I know we've talked about that before. Some people may have seen it. And she said when she was wiring it up for free play that she saw some smoke, she miswired something. And Tim, I think she may have blown that audio amp section of that little adapter board, and when she did that, she lost sound. But the PC, good news is that the PC is still putting out sound, so yes, she can hook speakers to that. But if she wants to go back through the cabinet speakers like she was doing before, more than likely she'll have to get another one of these adapters. So, but it was good to get a follow-up with her and everything, Tim. It's always good when we get follow-ups on questions that we cover here on the live show, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, I really like, because that was a I felt so bad for her, and we figured it did damage, but to actually know, yes, that's what happened, and kind of a workaround or a fix for it is really kind of good to hear.
Absolutely, Tim. So, Tanya, I just sent her back, like I said, that reply. So, hopefully, she'll let us know what she ends up doing, Tim. It sounded like she wanted to go with just the speaker route, just hook up like some PC speakers in there and be done with it. But maybe she'll go with the adapter route. I don't know. I guess she'll let us know. So, Tanya, if you're watching this, please let us know what you decide to do and how you ended up getting sound restored on your arcade cabinet. So, Tim, we also have Dragon Punch Dave is here. He says, hello, everyone. So, okay, so there we go. Well, Tim, I don't know if you noticed, I got my nice Grogu mug here, the child. So, representing the Book of Boba Fett tonight. We'll talk about that in the after show. I've been watching that, Tim. Really been enjoying it. I was talking with you about it before the show began, and so if you want to hear thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett or any off-topic things, we'll cover those in the after show. That's immediately after the regular live show here in a little bit. So make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to drink my coffee now. And Tim knows this, you guys may not. The game room that I have is nice and everything. It has vaulted ceilings, which means not a whole lot of insulation, which means cold in the winter, hot in the summer, Tim. So I've got my space heater here. I've got my nice Nintendo sweater on, and we're going to tackle this thing just like we always do, correct?
Yeah. I got my heater running over here, but it may get too warm for me in a little bit.
Well, that's a good problem to have, especially when it's so cold here this evening. So hopefully the warmth will help out. But Tim, let's go ahead and move on to our first actual question for this show, and it comes from another guy named Tim. And he says, thank you for your YouTube videos. They're great. I have a 1987 Tetris arcade game with a Wells Gardner K4900 chassis that shows a green screen. I replaced the chassis and neckboard with one off eBay, but the display did not change. Where should I be looking? Thanks. So, Tim, we have a question from Tim, and actually it has the picture here, and Tim, I don't know if you can see it, but he has a picture of his screen. It's just a solid green screen, has a little bit of that diagonal line brightness roster kind of look to it as well, Tim. Like he's got his brightness probably turned up a little too high. But the thing about it is that this is an arcade game, and he replaced the chassis, okay? So we know that the chassis is probably not the problem, Tim. What do you think is going on with Tim's 1987 Tetris arcade game?
Well, normally one of our first questions we would have asked before he even replaced the chassis is, was it playing blind? And since he's not getting anything, he's obviously just but a green screen. So we're starting to think that it's probably more of a board issue at this time. You might want to make sure that the monitor's wired up correctly and stuff like that. But it's probably a board issue. And because Tetris is JAMA, you could hook up a different JAMA board in the cabinet, or you could try that one in a different game, but it will probably help you. Unless he has some kind of power issue, he probably has a board issue with this way that screen looks.
Right, Tim. And like you mentioned, if it would have been a thing where it was playing blind before he replaced the chassis, that would have been one thing. But Tim, I'm not sure that was the case before he replaced it. And so basically he replaced the chassis, he got the same thing, which tells us it's either got to be the board or maybe a power supply issue. So that's what we're looking at here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and throw up this this slide here, Tim. From the description, it's starting to sound more like a Game Boy board issue at this point. With that said, you may want to make sure that your monitor input wires coming from your game board are hooked up correctly. Tim also mentioned that you want to make sure your power supply is getting good voltage to your board as well. That's very important. So those are two things you should check first before suspecting the game board. Now, once you've eliminated a power supply issue and a monitor input wire issue, at that point, we can start really looking at the board. And like Tim mentioned, you can try that Tetris board in a different JAMA cabinet, or you can try hooking up a different JAMA board in this cabinet. If you don't have another JAMA board, Tim, as we've said before, you can always get something like a 19-in-1 or a Game Elf board, which are very common now to use for testing. And this should help you identify whether the problem is in your monitor or in the Tetris board. And so, Tim, this is basically just an easy way to tell. And you could use a 60-in-1 as well. I didn't put a 60-in-1 on there. And the reason why is because he's got a horizontally mounted cabinet. So if you wanted a usable board that you could actually use to play in the cabinet, you really need to go with something that has a horizontal orientation, like a 19-in-1 or a Game Elf board, horizontal orientation board. And so, Tim, like you mentioned, he could take his Tetris board out, put it in a JAMA cabinet, see if it works, or he could just try a different JAMA board in his cabinet and see if it works. And that will let us know whether or not it's the Tetris board that's having the issue or if it's the cabinet having the issue. Tim, any other thoughts for Tim on his Tetris game before we move on?
I don't think so. I would like to hear back from him, though.
Sounds good. So, and actually, Tim, we did hear back from him, and I think it ended up being more of a power supply issue. And so he sent me a picture of what looked to be a Tato power supply, and he says that he didn't think it was putting out correct voltage, and so I gave him some options on what he could do there. Of course, he could rebuild it. He could replace it with with one of the kits from like Arcade Shop, Tim, that actually would wire directly into his existing Tato wiring, or he could just rewire the whole cabinet. And Tim, I just said those are kind of your three options here if you want to replace this power supply. You could rebuild the old Tato power supply, but more than likely it's still wired as a Tato cabinet with a JAMA harness in there somehow if it's got that as a power supply. You could try the switching power supply conversion kit, Tim, that Arcade Shop sells. We've talked a lot about those, used them in the past, which work pretty well. Or he could just rewire the whole cabinet and just use a standard JAMA harness, standard switching power supply, and get all that Tato wiring out of there. Tim, of those three options, is there one that kind of appeals more to you?
I would probably replace it.
So would you go with the switcher, or would you rewire the cabinet?
The switcher.
Okay.
I would do the switcher kit.
And we've used those before, Tim. I remember we installed one in a Kicks back in the day for yours because they're very finicky on power. And so the power supply kits that you get from Arcade Shop have a little adapter that goes on the switching power supply that allow you to hook it to several different types of arcade wiring harnesses, which is very handy. But they do make one and I sent him the link to the one he needed, Tim. But I gave him those three options, and I just told him, let us know which one you go with. So, Tim, if you're watching this, let us know which one you ended up going with. Love to know the direction you decided on. So, okay, Tim, before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the live chat real quick. It looks like UNK PC, or let's see, UNC PC Ride? Unc PC Ride is here, and I think we actually have a question from him later in the show. He says, exciting. Love the fan base for these past arcades that are still running. Absolutely. We love having you guys here. It's always fun. NTR President says, looking for recommendations on a desoldering tool, not the manual pump kind. So, Tim, do you have any recommendations for a desoldering tool for NTR President?
Yeah, probably the, how do you pronounce it, the Hako one?
Yeah, the Hako. The little gun.
Yeah. Yeah, the little gun.
I say the little gun. It's actually a big gun. But
right.
Yeah, there's a Hako desoldering gun.
And
that's very nice.
I still normally use desoldering braid and just a soldering iron. So, but it's up to it's kind of a preference.
Yeah, I mean, and I still have my desoldering iron, Tim, that I'll use from time to time. The Hako is the best. I mean, by far. And the nice thing about the Hako is it actually makes a pretty decent soldering iron as well. So you can desolder with it and solder with it pretty well. It's a very handy kind of multi-tool. A lot of people like that Hako, Tim. But like I said, I actually have a Radio Shack desoldering iron that I'll still use from time to time. You got to be careful about desoldering irons, Tim, because if you leave them on there too long, you can burn up traces. That's always something you have to be wary of. And the same goes for desoldering braid as well. Just be careful whenever you're doing desoldering that not to leave the heat on a certain pad or point for too long, because you can burn up traces very easily, lift them off the board, and then, it just makes a headache for everybody. So, but yeah, the Hako desoldering gun's probably the one that we're going to tell you to go with the most. But desoldering irons are good. Desoldering braid is good. Some people just use a soldering iron and the pump like you were talking about. I'm not a huge fan of that, Tim. I never get it to work quite right, but some people really like that combination. So, but just, it kind of depends on personal preference. I'd say, give one a shot, see if you like it, and if you like it, then, go forward with that. If you don't, try something else. And so desoldering braid is cheap. If you want to try that first, you can just get a little wick of it and try it out and see if you like it. And if you don't, then move up to like a desoldering iron or the Hako desoldering gun. So, let's see what we have here. Let's see. Robert says, I got the Hako. It's very expensive. It is very expensive, but very worth it. Yeah. So, absolutely. So, yeah, and NTR President says the FR301, I was looking at that. It is expensive, but I mean, if you're going to be doing a lot of soldering, Tim, that is the tool to have. So, right?
I think so.
Absolutely. So, Okay, let's see. Danny says, "What's up, guys? Sorry I'm late. I'm stuck in the deep snow." So I'm glad I'm not stuck in the deep snow like you, Danny. Hopefully you got enough food. Of course, Tim up north, they're more prepared than we are here, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I have to go.
One snowflake hits.
What?
One snowflake hits, and we're all emptying grocery shelves. It gets crazy here.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, I've been up north, Tim, for my job, Pittsburgh and West Virginia, Ohio areas, and like whenever I go up there, Tim, I mean, there'll be feet of snow on the ground, but those roadways are clear, very easy to drive on. So, but we just don't have that. We don't have that kind of equipment here to take care of the snow like you guys do up north, just because we don't get it as much, and so our infrastructure is not made for that. And typically, it doesn't snow here, Tim. What does it do?
No,
we get ice. That is correct. So, yeah. I mean, it's a lot different. And so we do get snow from time to time, but most of the time what we get is ice. It makes it a little bit more hazardous to drive on. So, anyway, but Danny, hopefully you're okay there in Indiana with the snow and everything. And hopefully you got enough food and everything you can get out if you need to. So, okay, Tim, I think we're caught up on the live chat. So let's go ahead and move to our next question from James. And James writes, "Hi there. I have a Miss Pac-Man cabinet that freezes up on the, it says on the after a death of between the second and third levels." So I'm assuming that he's saying after you die, between the second and third levels, it freezes up. That's what I'm going to assume. And he says, "Thanks, James." So there you go, Tim. So we have a Miss Pac-Man board here, Tim. And it's from James, and it sounds like that his cabinet wants to freeze up between the second and third levels after, I guess, I don't know if it's after all the lives are gone or after he dies. I'm not sure exactly what the circumstance is, but sometime between the second and third levels, if he dies, it freezes up. So with that in mind, what do you think's going on with James's Miss Pac-Man cabinet here?
Well, anytime we have something that's real consistent, it doesn't just randomly happen every once in a while. Whatever it's between the second and third levels, like almost consistency is the key word, being that's probably like we talked about earlier, probably a board issue. I mean, you could check the power and make sure that all that is good, because it has to have the right amount to process, and those can cause issues with your board when you don't have correct power. But it could just be a bad RAM or an IC chip or something on his board. So definitely could use some looking into. I know one thing that we're going to suggest is that he pull off the daughter board and plug the Z80 right back into the CPU socket on the main board and see how it does. In other words, is it related to his main board, or is it part of his processor, or could it be the ribbon or the connection to his daughter card? That will allow him to run like regular Pac-Man. It'll look a little funny, but it will play, and see if that happens. Or is it the Miss Pac-Man character ROMs that we should, if we have
right? And Tim, what you mentioned is a good tip from our friend Raymond at Arcade Components, and this is something that is a really handy tip if you want to figure out if there's an issue with your daughter card. You can take the Z80 out of the daughter card and then plug it directly into the main board, and that'll kind of bypasses the daughter card. The character ROMs look a little different because the character ROMs for Miss Pac, of course, are different than Pac-Man, but the game will run like that, and you can at least figure out if the problem's in the daughter card or in the main board. So Tim, with that said, let's go ahead and throw this slide up here. From your description, it sounds like more of a board issue, like Tim mentioned. With that said, we still recommend checking your power supply, fuses, fuse holder, edge connector to make sure that they are functioning properly. Tim, you and I both know that the edge connections on Miss Pac-Man can get a little funky sometimes with that AC voltage going up there, and so it's very common that there's an issue with the edge connector on Miss Pac-Man boards, correct?
Yes.
Right. And you'll see they have the Pac-Mend kits, right, Tim, that you can use to help fix the edge connection side of the board if you need that. Or you can bypass the edge connector, wire straight to the board. I've seen that done on a lot of them. And so if that's something you need to do, just check to make sure that you're getting good voltage through the edge connector. And, I mean, that should be adequate. On the board side, could be an issue with a bad RAM or IC chip, like Tim mentioned. And we talked about this. You might try pulling the daughter board and plugging the Z80 into the CPU socket on the main board to see how it runs. It should look like regular Pac-Man, but with a Pac character running on his lips because of the Miss Pac-Man character ROM. And see if the problem still occurs. If the problem still occurs, then we know that the problem is on our main board. If the problem goes away, then we know that the problem is in our daughter card. And so this will kind of give you an idea of which way you need to go. Again, our friend Raymond from Arcade Components, that's kind of one of his tips, and I've used that in the past. Works really well. But we are kind of leaning to a board issue. Bad RAM is very common on something like this because it could be that we're getting to that, we get to a certain RAM address location, and then all of a sudden that address location is bad, Tim. And so the board automatically malfunctions at that address location. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see it was a bad RAM. But not a bad idea to check the Z80 as well, because Z80 malfunction stuff can cause all sorts of weird issues with it. And so still a good idea to check the Z80 like we're talking about. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if you had a bad RAM as well. Tim, anything else for James here before we move on?
I don't think so.
Sounds good. So, James, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting your Miss Pac-Man fully working past, hopefully, levels 2 and 3 without freezing. Speaking of freezing, Tim, I'm kind of cold here. So, let's see. YouTube Punk says Ice Ice Baby, so there you go. Let's see. NTR President, hey, what does Sega stand for? Is it really short form for service games? That's what I've always heard, Tim. Is that what you know it as well?
Yeah, I've never heard any different. I don't know.
I've always heard it was short for service games, and I mean, you can look that up online, and something may either confirm or tell you something else. But I've always heard that it was short form for service games. We will be talking about Sega here in a bit in the news stories, Tim. You may have seen a story about Sega selling off their arcades, and so we'll be talking about that here in just a little bit in the discussion and news section of the live show. So you guys stay tuned for that if you're interested. We also have some other stories, Tim, concerning some different issues. 50th anniversary of Atari, Tim, of course, is coming up, and apparently they've got some ideas on how they want to reinvent themselves. We'll find out a little bit more about that as well later in the show, so you guys stay tuned for that. Okay, Tim, let us move on here with this next question from Chad. Now, Tim, you may notice that the title of this live show is Where There's Smoke, There's Tron. And yes, I did it with a question mark, and the reason why is because of Chad's question, which we are now getting to, so I'll go ahead and read that so you guys can be clued into what the title means. He says, hello, I have a Tron machine. I turned it on, and smoke rolled out of the machine. I hurried and unplugged it. I waited a while and turned it back on. I have lights and nothing else. Wanted to know where the smoke came from, but nothing. Where do I start? So there you go, Tim. We have a Tron machine, and apparently when Chad first turned it on, we had a roll of smoke that just came out of the machine. And he unplugged it in a hurry, like most of us would if we saw smoke rolling out of a machine. Hopefully you guys are, you're sharp enough to do that part. And then he waited a while because he's like, I'm going to let it settle. Whatever was going on in there, I'll let it settle and I'll plug it back in. And when he plugs it back in, he's got some lights, but that's about it. The lights are on, but nobody's home, Tim. So where does Chad need to start with this Tron repair?
Well, the old saying is true, where there's smoke, there's fire. So what I would do is really give the board over a good inspection and a sniff test. You can really get in there with a flashlight. You can try to track that down because it could have came from most anywhere, but we're always going to start at power. And with it having AC, but it doesn't sound like it has DC with its lights going and stuff, I would definitely start at power and check the power supply. Now there's test points on there where you can test the voltage, and you can make sure the voltage is correct. If you've got good voltage, but then your board is not outputting, then it could be a board issue. Again, if it was a monitor that had smoke like that, which is entirely possible, we've seen flybacks literally shoot flames out. We've seen smoke come out of chassis before. Then it would play blind like we were talking about earlier, and we know that that's probably where it was. Sometimes it can be very tricky, and it could be just a multitude of things, but we've got to kind of start at power and go through the steps to see where it is, where the break in the chain is, in other words.
Absolutely, Tim. And like you said, we're probably getting the AC power because we do have the lights. probably not getting the DC power because we don't have anything else going on. Typically, if we're getting DC power, we'd be getting power to the board, and we at least get maybe a playing blind or something like that, depending on how the board is. But as you mentioned, Tim, probably the best place to start is to start at power. So I'm going to go ahead and put the slide up here, Tim, and we'll kind of discuss that. As you probably know, smoke is not a good sign. Where there is smoke, there's usually fire or some burning components. We like to always start at power, especially when we're not exactly sure what's causing the problem. And Tim, obviously, this arcade cabinet up in the picture is having other issues than what Chad's is doing here, probably. But anyway, so Tron, like somebody said, NTR president said it's the MCU. Actually, Tron uses the MCR power supply, which has test points where you can check the voltages. So use a multimeter on these test points. Make sure the voltage is correct. If it's not, it may be time to either rebuild or replace the power supply. And you can get rebuild and switching power supply replacement kits for MCR power supplies at Arcade Shop, Tim, which we've always recommended a lot, or other parts retailers. And so, Tim, that MCR board is probably going to be the best place to start. He can do a rebuild on that, or he can replace it if it's not working properly. And once he's got good voltage, then we can start figuring out the rest of the issues that are going on, correct? Absolutely. Right. So, Tim, do you have anything else here for Chad before we move on his Tron smoking arcade cabinet?
No, I don't think so. We're going to have to get back with him and see.
Okay, you okay?
Sorry. Yeah, just having some coughing.
Well, Chad, hopefully it answers your question, or at least gets you pointed in the right direction as far as this repair goes. Let's make sure that we're getting good voltage and good power to our boards. Make sure that MCR board is functioning properly. And if it's not, let's look at either rebuilding it or maybe going the switching power supply conversion route, and then let us know where you end up from there. Okay, Tim, let's go to the live chat real quick. Danny says, I heard Sega is one of the worst boards to have. Sega boards can be tricky to work on, correct?
Yeah, just expensive too.
Yeah, and there's they have a lot of, especially like their motion games, Tim, have a lot of different connectors and like interworking boards and things like this. And so it can be very difficult to work on Sega games, especially if you're not familiar with them. Schematics are very helpful with Sega games because they can tell you a lot more about how the game can function and work. Without that, though, it's almost stabbing in the dark sometimes, so it can be very hard to work on them without a manual or schematic. So make sure that if you are working on Sega games, highly recommend making sure you have the manual and the schematic as well. Let's see. NTR President says, unplug the CRT and plug the game back in, start eliminating. And that's not a bad idea, Tim, here, is to let's unplug the CRT and see where we're at. Because if we did have the smoke and it was coming from the monitor, then unplugging it may allow us to get the game playing blind at least, correct? So I would still make sure that the power supply is putting out good voltage. Still very important. So let's see. Okay, I think we're caught up. NTR President says it was a movie reference. Yes, an MCR, not an MCU. I know we use MCU now, it seems like, for everything as far as movies go, right, Tim? And it could kind of fit, I guess. But no, MCR is what we're looking for with Tron. So, yeah, check that MCR board. Let us know how it goes, Chad. Okay, I think we're all caught up with the live chat, Tim. So let us move on to the next question from Graham. And Graham says, hi, I've been using your videos over the last couple years. Thank you. The problem I'm having is in the pics attached. Do you think a monitor rejuvenation will fix this? I've tried adjusting the yoke, convergence, and the color cutoffs, as well as the flyback. I'm wondering if it's a tube problem or cap kit next. It's Wells Garner 25K7195 is the model, and it's a Philips CRT. Now I'm going to show you guys these pictures, okay, because it does says he did send the pictures, and we'll see what the live chat has to say. Tim, I also sent this question over to Michael, who's our resident monitor repair guy as well, to get his opinion. So I'll get everybody else's opinion here. Let them see these pictures real quick. And Tim, you may notice a rainbow effect. I almost said slight, but this is definitely not a slight rainbow effect. This is like a full-on rainbow effect, correct? So, I mean, go ahead.
It almost like it was just ripped in two, too. It's kind of a very unique situation.
Yeah, I mean, we literally have like green, blue, red, green, like repeating huge wide stripes on the monitor. Now we can see gameplay. So I know, Tim, sometimes people listen to this on the audio form. So I'm trying to explain this to you if you guys are just doing the audio portion of this. But basically we have these huge like vertical green, red, and blue stripes, but we can see the game through that, right, Tim? Yeah, so we can see that the game looks like a police trainer, Tim. If I had to guess, it looks like that's a police trainer. And so he's got a police trainer board hooked up, and we know this is a Wells Gardner 25-inch monitor, a 7195, Tim. So with all that in mind, I think everybody in the live chat got a good chance to look at the pictures. I want to make sure I gave them enough time. With that in mind, what do you think is going on with Graham's monitor? And I did obviously put some input from Michael in here as well. So what do you think is going on here, Tim?
Well, there's something going on with the purity alignment of his yoke and stuff. I'm not sure exactly. I don't think that the question he asked was, would a tube rejuvenation fix this? And I don't think so. I think you're going to have to try to degauss it, and maybe you can kind of go from there. But something is definitely going on with those rings, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's having a big purity issue here, Tim, and you can see it with that rainbow effect. It's really bad. And it could like the convergence or purity rings on the back of the monitor, Tim. I mean, they can help adjust out to a certain extent, Tim, but this is more than just an adjustment to me. It's almost like a yoke misalignment, or to me it could be a tube issue, a fully magnetized shadow mask, perhaps, something like that. I mean, this is something a whole lot different than what we would normally have. And so I did also send this to Michael, and Michael, I put up a couple of his thoughts here on the slide as well, Tim. So I'm going to go ahead and put up the slide here so we can talk about it.
Okay.
So from your pictures, it looks like your monitor tube is experiencing a pretty bad purity issue. Make sure that the degaussing coil that's built into the monitor is connected and working properly. So Tim, a lot of people are familiar with that little, kind of, what would you call it, braided looking thing that goes around the monitor tube. It hooks up with 2 wires to the monitor chassis, and that is the internal degaussing coil for the monitor. So Graham, make sure that you have a internal degaussing coil like that, and that it is working properly. And then you can also try an external degaussing wand, okay, or coil to see if you can correct the problem. So, and this is UNK PC Right is in here, Tim. And he says, game works fine. Update, I tried another monitor and it did the same thing. Maybe a neckboard transistor. Since you tried another monitor and it did the same thing, that's very interesting. It's almost like you may have some interference either in the cabinet or something is happening with the way that the polarity is in your cabinet. And so part of what may also play into that is the second part of the slide here, Tim. I'm going to read that. Turning the whole cabinet 90 degrees or relocating the cabinet to another location altogether may help this as well. So, so you may try that. You may try relocating the cabinet altogether. So literally like moving it from one side of the room to the other, right, Tim? So you may try to do that.
I would also, now that I'm looking at it too, that I'm wondering where his speakers are in here, and if they're too close to the monitor, being that he tried a different monitor.
There may be something in the cabinet that's causing interference. And so it is possible if you have unshielded speakers in the cabinet that those could be causing havoc with the monitor itself. Very possible if they are unshielded. Now, something too, Graham, here that Michael said to try, and I love this, is the second part here. He said to determine if it's the tube or a chassis problem, try unsoldering the drive transistors one at a time. If the color goes away, it's a chassis issue. If not, it's a tube issue. Does that make sense, Tim? So what you'll do, and he mentioned here, he's got the drive transistors, like you've already identified those, it looks like. And so what you need to do is try like desoldering, removing like the red drive transistor and turning on the monitor. If you do that, the red should be gone when you do that. If the red continues to show up after doing the drive transistor, you're having a tube issue. But if the red disappears, then it is actually in the chassis. And I would do that for each color to see if that's the case. So remove the blue drive transistor, put the red one back, see if the blue color comes up. If you get blue, again, more of a tube issue than a chassis issue, okay? And so I think that's a really good way to determine what you have. The fact that you tried another monitor altogether and it's still doing the same thing really leads us to believe that there's either something in the cabinet or in your room that may be causing this kind of magnetic interference. So what you may want to do is, like we said, physically move the cabinet across the room to the other side of the room and rotate it and see if it changes anything about it. If it doesn't change anything, then you may just have a tube issue. You can have a really bad magnetism on the shadow mask. We've seen this before. And Tim, you can also apply magnets to your tube to help with this. But again, this is such an extreme purity issue that I don't know if placing strategic magnets on the tube is going to help. And so it may just be that you need to find another tube. But before we do that, let's try, again, try removing some of the speakers or other things that may be causing interference in the cabinet. Out of the cabinet just temporarily. Try the drive transistor trick like we talked about. See if we can determine whether it's in the tube or if it's in the chassis. And try relocating the cabinet as well. See if that helps it. Try some of those things and then let us know how it works. Tim, is there anything else that you think we can give? We can give UNK PC Ride here to help him out.
No, I'm really. I guess the game does play blind. You can hear it and play it. It's a real interesting one. This one is a real head scratcher because there's a couple things that could be. We would really love to hear back from him, an update on that.
Absolutely. And I also have some more tricks from Michael, Tim. So if you get stuck and you want to try something else, like let's say you try all the things we talked about here and you're still stuck on it, then let me know and I'll send you the rest of Michael's email. I couldn't fit it all on the slide, Tim, all the stuff he said to try, but let me know and I can send you the rest of that email so you can try out some of the other stuff as well. I kind of just picked the things that I thought would help the best, but Michael sent like basically paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff for him to try as well. So, but UNK PC Ride, hopefully that answers your question or at least gives you some things to try. Give us an update if you need additional help and let us know how it goes with some of the things we suggested. Okay, Tim, let's see. The next question I have here is from Bad Boy Foy. And I think that's an email address, Tim, but they didn't have like a real name, so we just did Bad Boy Foy. So, Bad Boy Foy writes, "Hi, I recently purchased a JAMA wiring harness with the Retro Arcade power supply." And Tim, typically when people say Retro Arcade power supply, they're talking about the Retro Arcade US power supply from Holland Computers, which we're pretty familiar with. The power supply did not come with a power cord, as most don't. How do I supply power to it? Does it need a 3-prong plug for ground? Please provide info on which wire goes to which terminal for the AC. Thanks. Okay, Tim, so Bad Boy Foy, he's got a JAMA wiring harness and the power supply. But he didn't get a power cord with it. And so he doesn't know exactly how to wire this switching power supply up. What would you tell Bad Boy Foy as far as getting this Retro Arcade power supply wired up and running?
Well, you do want a 3-prong AC power cord, specifically because it needs to be grounded properly. And to hook that up, basically, hopefully you'll get one that has the black, white, and the green wires, which are the most common. And so the green would be your ground. You can check that with the meter. It'd be the one long, skinny prong by itself, usually at the top if you're looking at it that way. Then white one would be the neutral wire. And then the black wire would be the live or the hot wire. That you could hook those up like that.
Right, and on the switching power supply, Tim, there are 3 terminals. And I actually did a little diagram here for him so he could see it. So I'm going to throw that up here real quick. You can supply AC power to a switching power supply, like the Retro Arcade power supply, by using a AC power cord. We recommend a 14 gauge or lower cord just so it can provide the necessary amps for the power supply. And Tim, we actually have a link there. That's an advertising link that you can see down below in the show notes as well. So if you want to order that one, you can, or anything like it, it will be fine. Yes, you do want, like Tim mentioned, a 3-prong AC power cord for grounding purposes. To hook up the cord, you want to attach the green wire to the FG. Sometimes, Tim, we call that a floor ground. Sometimes it's called the field ground. Sometimes it's called the frame ground. There's a lot of different F names that people use for the ground, but I like to use floor ground because that makes me think like physical floor ground kind of thing. But I've heard frame ground and field ground used a lot too, so it just depends. But the green wire will go to that FG input on the power supply. The white wire, like Tim mentioned, will go to the AC/N or the neutral input, and the black wire will go to the ACL, to the line/live input, or the hot, we also call it that. And I actually have the colors over there to the left so you can see that. But if you wire those up like that, you should be able to, that will give you power to the JAMA to the jammer harness, which should allow you to run your board with DC voltage. Now, of course, before you hook up anything to it, make sure that you check the DC voltage coming off your power supply. Make sure that your 5 is pretty close to 5, your 12 is pretty close to 12 before you hook up any boards. Tim, anything else here for Bad Boy Foy before we continue?
No, it was a pretty simple question. I don't think you'll have any problems with that diagram.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not very hard. I think, it is hard if you've never done before, and it sounds like Bad Boy Foy may be tackling his first arcade project here, Tim. And so, again, it's not very difficult at all. As long as you follow that diagram, you order you a nice power cord, 14 gauge or lower on that, that has the enough amps to crank through to that power supply. You should be in good shape. So you can order the one that we link to, the affiliate link that we have below, or you can just get one from your local, I would say Radio Shack, but those aren't around anymore. Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware store, whatever you got close to you that carries electrical stuff should have power cords as well. So, okay, Tim, we have YouTube Punk. Oh, what'd you say?
I did look up something, John, just in case, because I always have to see this one myself. Normally, if you get one from Retro Arcade, I think sometimes they come with that black, blue, brown, and a green with a yellow stripe. Just in case you see that one, the blue would be the same as the white on here, and the brown would be the same as the black, and then the green with the yellow stripe, or the yellow stripe with a yellow with a green stripe would be your green wire. Just in case he gets one that's not green, white, and black. I have seen that's pretty common now to find that brown, blue, and yellow with a green stripe. So, again, brown to black, same as that, and blue to white.
Sounds good, Tim. Yeah, and like you said, you don't always get that nice like green, black, white combination. We have seen the green with yellow, blue, brown a lot recently. So yeah, it depends on which one you're ordering. Tim, I just showed him that one because that was the one I linked to. But if you're gonna order it from Retro Arcade US, it may be different, like Tim's mentioning, and I think it is because we've bought a lot of their stuff before, and I believe it is those wire colors, like you said, match up with the blue, brown, and the green, yellow. So
yeah. If you get it from them, it probably
sounds
will be.
good. So just something to keep in mind. So hopefully answers your question, Bad Boy Foy, and just let us know if you have any issues wiring that up. It's, like I said, it shouldn't be too difficult, but if you have any questions, let us know. Okay, Tim, let us continue up with our, actually we have our quick questions and answers, but before we get to that, YouTube Punk had a question. He says, in 40 years, think there'll be a 1-up arcade repair podcast? The future hosts help people repair their 1-up arcades today, from today. What do you think?
I don't think any of them will last 40 years. They'll be gone by then.
No, it's funny you should say that because that's basically what Delusional's Arcade said as well, Tim. He said, will arcade 1-ups even last that long quality-wise? Think about it. Now, with that said, Tim, we all know that arcade games are only made to last a couple of years as well, correct?
True. They were only designed used to make their money and get rid of them.
Yeah, so who knows? I think, we've already answered some 1-up repair questions here on our show, Tim. So I know that going forward, we probably will see more of those. And so, yeah, there may end up being a whole podcast just related to repair and arcade 1-ups. Thankfully, we're not there yet. Thankfully, some of us still have full-size arcade games, but there may come a time for that. But hey, if it happens, it happens. Just a transition. When all is said and done, there may end up being more arcade 1-ups out in the world than arcades. You just never know. So, Okay, anyway, let us continue on here, Tim, with some quick question and answers. Now, Tim, we usually do these rapid fire, and so we can do that this time as well. I'll read off the 3 questions, and then you can give us kind of a rapid fire answers on all 3 of them. So without any further ado, let us continue on here. So some quick questions and answers. So the first one, Tim, is from Manuel, and he says, I just got a cocktail 16-in-1, and all of a sudden the start button doesn't work. Is there anything I should look at? Thanks. Then we have Philip, who says, I have a Fisherman's Bait arcade. It says wrong CD/tape. Any suggestions? And then we have Mina, who I believe was in the live chat earlier, said, hello, we have a Galaxian video arcade machine. The marquee lights up, but the game does not load. It shows a matrix type cascade on the screen. Might this be the board? So we have Manuel Tim with a start button issue. We have Philip with Fisherman's Bait with a wrong CD/tape. And we have Mina with a Galaxian with a marquee that lights up, but a game that does not load. So, are you ready to tackle these one at a time here, rapid fire, Tim?
Let's go.
Okay, so the first one I have, Manuel, 16-in-1 cocktail, but start button doesn't work, Tim. What can we do?
Well, you're going to open up the control panel and check the button switch and make sure that both wires are wired to it, and make sure the game is coined up if it's not on free play.
Yeah, and that's really important. And you want to make sure it's wired correctly too, Tim. Just to remind everybody, how do we usually wire up a button switch?
Well, you got 3 choices, but only 2 wires. One of them will be your ground or your common wire, and that one will be the one that's on the bottom by itself. Then the one next to it will be your normally your normally open wire. That's one that it's normally wired to, so that it's normally open until you hit the button, and when you do, it completes the circuit. So the bottom 2, the one that's different, and then the one right next to it, or to be the 2 places you wire it up usually.
Awesome, Tim. Okay, let's move to Philip. Philip has a Fisherman's Bait. It's saying wrong CD/tape. What should Philip do in order to get it working again?
Well, you can take them out and do kind of like we did with the old Nintendo tapes, blow on them, clean them, whatever, and make sure that they're good and clean, don't have smudges, things like that on them. And reinsert them and see if that works. If that doesn't work, though, you probably have a bad CD or cassette tape.
Sounds good, Tim.
Or driver.
Okay, and then we also have Mina, and she had the Galaxian with just the grid. It gets lights, but just a grid on the screen. What do you think's going on with her Galaxian?
Well, it's probably an issue with her board, like they suspected. One thing you can is unplug the coin door and see if the game boots up. If it does, you could have a bad switch on the coin door. If it doesn't close, you'll get that grid power. But more than likely, if you're not playing blind or anything, it's probably a board issue.
Yeah, Tim, I think we had a little glitch there at the end. What was that last part that you said?
I said more than likely it's a board issue, though.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, I think you covered all 3 of the questions that we had here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the screen here, the outline. And so the first one we had was from Manuel about the start button, and yes, you just should try opening control panel and checking the button switch and wiring going to the start button. Make sure the game is coined up if it's not on free play. Of course, if you don't have coins in the game, Tim, you hit the start button, it's not going to work, right? So make sure you have coins if it's not on free play. Otherwise, check the button, check the switch, check the wiring, make sure that everything's good on that start button. And Tim, I know you didn't mention this, but continuity back to the main harness is very important, correct? So make sure that the start button and the ground that you're using have continuity all the way back to the main harness as well. Philip, like Tim mentioned, remove the CD and the cassette and reinsert them into the board. Tim, I don't know how familiar you are with these boards, but what they do is they take the data from the CD and then flash the ROM chips. And so through the test menu, you can reinitialize the flash ROM from the CD. And so you may try doing that, Philip, to see if that changes it or if that makes a difference. But you could just have a bad CD/cassette There has been some progress in bypassing the security cassettes, Tim, on those. I think I forget what the system number is, 253, something like that. There has been some progress on that, but I mean, just recently. And so I don't know if you're going to be able to find like any kind of information out there on your particular board set or not. But there has been some information. Or there has been some progress recently on bypassing those security cassettes, and so you may do some research on that if you can't get it working otherwise. And then, Mina, yes, possibly an issue with a bad RAM or IC chip, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, Tim, with the Miss Pac-Man board. One thing you can try, like Tim mentioned, unplug the coin door and see if the game boots up. If it does, you could have a bad switch on the coin door, and of course check your power as well. And Tim, the reason why is, you and I both know this, the little test and service mode switches on those Midway games inside the doors, they're terrible, right? I mean, like, they get stuck. Mm-hmm. They're poor quality, and so if one of those switches gets stuck down, it'll put you into that grid mode. So by unplugging the coin door, that'll bypass that switch. If it boots like that, then more than likely you've got a bad switch somewhere in there that you just need to check out. So, okay, Tim, is there anything else you want to add to any of these questions?
No, thanks.
Okay, Mina chimed back in. She said, let's see, we bought another board and we have the same issue. So she has the same issue with a different board. And there isn't a switch on the coin door. It's in the back of the machine. We can hear the game. We just can't see it. So you're still getting a grid pattern, Mina, even with the secondary board, or are you getting black screen? Because grid pattern on two boards and hearing the game sounds like something unique to me. And so are you getting anything on the screen? Are you getting it, like when you're saying grid pattern, is it like a square grid pattern, or is it just like lines kind of going diagonally? Maybe that's a good question. But she says they can hear the game, but they can't see it. Now, typically, and YouTube Punk says this, Tim, when we hear that, that's playing blind, correct? So, right. Tim, if it is a playing blind case, what does she need to do at that point?
Well, at that point, she's going to need to, or they're going to need to check their monitor chassis and make sure that it's plugged up right and everything. It does bother me that they're not seeing a switch right inside the coin door because it should have wiring at least for one. So if you get a wiring diagram and see what happened to those wires, where are they going? Maybe it's down in the bottom of the game or somewhere where you're not seeing. That could be, or somebody just bypassed them and twisted them together. Even worse, would cause some of those type of issues.
Yeah, I mean, she's saying she can hear the game playing. And so, I put up the grid, Tim, thinking it was more... the grid that I put up, Tim, when she says grid, I'm thinking of the square grid that comes up at boot, like on a Galaxian, has that little boot grid. But the grid she may be talking about is just like a raster style, over brightness grid type thing. And so if that's more what you're getting, if you're getting these diagonal lines like this, then that usually would mean either the monitor's not getting a signal from your board or that your monitor's not displaying properly whatever is coming from the board, something to that effect. So she says it's lines going down the monitor like raindrops.
Okay. I would like to see a picture of it, to have her send one, and we can update on the next live show. But it does sound like maybe it's just out of sync, and that she just needs to do some adjustments on her monitor, especially with two boards doing that. Now we're probably looking at a monitor chassis issue.
Agreed, Tim, and I think you may be right. It may be an out-of-sync issue. And so, Mina, if you can send us a picture of what your monitor looks like, send it to questions@arcaderepairtips.com via email. Let us see that, and we can probably give you better advice based on that. And so I'm kind of leaning with Tim. If it looks like a raindrop style effect, typically that would be more of a monitor out of sync. And so that could be due either to a bad sync connection between your board and the monitor, or with something in the sync circuit on your monitor chassis. So send us a picture, though. Let us try to diagnose it further that way. So questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and we'll get back to you. So, okay, Tim. Well, I think we're caught up. Now, while we were doing all that, Tim, TextJYT donated $20, says, love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you, TextJYT. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. And just thanks for being here and participating with the show tonight. And we appreciate all donations. If you guys would like to make a donation, you can hit the little button down below. It has a little $sign on it. That's Super Chat button, and donate some through that. Or if you'd rather go to PayPal and donate, you can. PayPal or arcaderepairtips.com/donate. If you go there, arcaderepairtips.com/donate, you can donate via that method as well. All donations are appreciated, and it just helps us continue to do what we do here. So thank you, Tex JYT, for that, and we really appreciate it. He also chimed in here, Tim, I think before he made the donation, saying, I picked up a Miss Pac-Man last weekend. Guy said it wouldn't power up. I paid $200, brought it home, and found the backdoor power bypass switch was tripped. Pulled it out, and it booted up and plays. So just needs a cap kit on the monitor that has very little burn. I'm happy. So there you go. A $200 pickup for a non-working game fixed in less than 5 seconds just by pulling out a switch. So awesome story. Love to hear those. So there we go. Okay. So I think we're done with all of the questions that we have. Of course, if you guys want to leave some questions, you can leave them here in the live chat. We'll try to get to those before the end of the show tonight. But Tim, you do have a tech tip for us this month, and so let's go ahead and talk about that, and I'll put up the slide.
All right. We get this question a lot sometimes about running multiple boards in a cabinet, and this is how you do it. Want to put more than one game board inside of a cabinet? Try a Vector Labs or Riddle TV JAMA selector. Both of these selectors use Molex connectors for power, ribbon cables for input, and adapter boards to connect to each game board. Even non-JAMA games are supported as long as you have the right adapter board for the game board you want to hook up. And so I know that a lot of people are probably aware of this, but then there's probably some that didn't even know these existed. We get this question, like I said, quite often, and this is a great way to do that and switch between games inside of your game.
So, Tim, for those people who may have heard all that and just think it's all gibberish, what does this mean? So, it's a JAMA selector board, so what does this mean? If I have a JAMA wired cabinet, what can I do with it with one of these selector boards?
Well, you can make a multi game cabinet out of it, kind of, and choose the JAMA boards or the boards with adapters that you put in there. You plug them in there, and then then you can switch between different games and stuff, and allow you to play more than one game in one cabinet.
Right. Now, and you mentioned that these use adapter boards. So do all the other boards I hook up to this have to be JAMA with these guys?
No. You just have the right adapter board for it.
Right. So, like, let's say I had a Pac-Man, a Donkey Kong, and a Street Fighter board, and I wanted them to all play in the same cabinet. I could do this with this kind of setup, correct?
Exactly. And that's what kind of makes it unique. It doesn't have to be two JAMA games or similar style games. You can run several different types of games like that.
Correct. And we put the links down below, guys, for both of these. And both of them work the same way. The Vector Labs and the Riddle TV both work the same way. And we put the links down below in the show description, so you guys, if you guys want to purchase those, you can. Geeklight08 says, Tim, when using these, are all the boards powered up at the same time? Do you know that, Tim?
I do not know, John. I haven't used it, but I don't think so. I think that it only power to certain ones as you switch them, right?
I believe that's correct, Tim, and I would have to verify that on the website for these, but I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned, it only runs power to the board that's currently running. And so, yeah, it would only run power to the one board. You wouldn't be powering all the boards at the same time. So if you did switch between them, it would power each board up whenever it came on. Let's see. Rexer Show says, Retro Wow just tried a JAMA switcher on the Smash TV in total carnage, but after a few minutes, something happened to the Smash board and it died and went black. He doesn't know what happened. Ooh, that's a rough one right there. So yeah, you have to be careful when using these. And Tim, I'm not a big fan of like the little, like the Gambas JAMA switcher boards, like the 2 ones that you have. These seem like they're a lot better quality to me. What do you think?
That's exactly what I was thinking, is these are kind of like a newer version of what has been around for a while. They seem to seem to be a little more user friendly, and I kind of trust them a little bit
Yeah,
more.
you always have to be careful with the cheap like Chinese switchers, guys. I know there's a lot of them out there, and so you don't want to damage a JAMA board like that, which sounds like happens with Retro Ralph. Hopefully his Smash TV board's okay. Let's see. He says yes. He said for his switcher, he said it leaves power to both, but some switchers are different. I heard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these only supply to the board that's currently got the selection, but some switchers may supply power to all boards at once. It just depends on the switcher. Of course, we'd have to do a little bit more research ourselves, but for some reason, Tim, I remember reading something about just supplying power to one board at a time. So, but it may depend on your switcher for sure. YouTube Punk says John from John's Arcade had one, and he switched back and forth, and both boards were on IRC. There you go. Let's see. Real Hammer Billy Lee, the 6-in-1 switcher I have only powers the board that is currently running, Tim, which I guess would be the Riddle TV probably. So, TextJYT, I installed one of these in a Pac-Man cabinet with original board and a 412-in-1 JAMA. So there you go. That's a nice way to do it. You can have original Pac-Man board there, Tim, and have a multi-board in there, right? So that way, when it boots up, it's a Pac-Man. Then you can switch it over and be a multi-K later if you wanted to. Let's see. GeekLight08. Oh, I'm going to need one of those. The ones I have are a couple of years old and run power to all boards at the same time. Not a fan of that. I am not a fan of that either. I mean, you really don't want to be running power to a board that's not being played at the moment. Not only would it be tough on your power supply, Tim, but it's also tougher on the board if it's not actually getting played. It's basically just running in a track mode in the background. And so I think you really want one of these that's only going to supply power to the board that's currently got the selection, correct? Yeah. See, TextJYT, they are only powered up when you switch it to it. It was a great option to keep it looking original and allows a multi-game. John, this is from YouTube Punk, John had a Tetris and a Street Fighter 2 in the same cabinet. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is they both Riddle TV and Vector Labs make adapters for all sorts of different boards. So even though you have a JAMA wired cabinet, you can put whatever kind of board that you can find an adapter for in there with it. So if that's a Pac-Man board, or if that's Donkey Kong, if that's whatever other board that you want to play in that cabinet, just make sure they make the adapter that you need for that board, and you should be in good shape. So, okay, is that it? Okay, I think we're good. I think we're caught up there, Tim. But I think that's a good tech tip. And, Tim, we may have to order one of these, get one in, and try it out one of our cabinets, huh? Yeah. I think either one of these options is good. It looks like they're built very similarly, so it just kind of depends on how many slots you need. The Riddle TV, I think they only sell, Tim, like the 6... They sell like a 6 and a 2. And I think the Vector Labs, they just have a 4 one. So it just depends on how many, like I said, how many connections you really need. So... there you go. So, Tim, thanks for that tech tip. I think it's got a lot of people talking in the live chat, which is really good. So, hopefully you guys, if you guys get to try out one of those, you'll give us an update on it and let us know what you think. Oh, NTR President, is there a go-to 60-in-1 that anyone recommends? Tim, is there any particular 60-in-1 that you recommend? I mean, they're pretty much all the same, correct?
Yeah, I just get whatever. I mean, I usually buy from somebody that we trust, but at the same time, I haven't had any issues with any of them. I usually just get it from Cajun Arcade, or where do we buy the last one from,
Cajun
John?
Arcade hasn't been selling them for a while. High Scores are... highscoresaves.com. Joe sometimes keeps some in stock. I don't know if he still keeps them in stock over there. Guys, if you just look on eBay or Amazon, I mean, now Amazon has a really good return policy. So if you order one from Amazon, you can usually get it pretty cheap. And if it has any problems, you can return it. And so like eBay and Amazon are really the places to go for that. I mean, we used to have some retailers that we use, but I mean, most of them have stopped selling at this point. So, okay. TextJYT says, not a 60-in-1 out there that I would recommend. Other options out there. Yeah, I mean, 60-in-1s, though, to me are still, I mean, they're cheap, and they're still, a quick option to build a cabinet around. There's the Game Elf boards now, Tim. They're probably more popular, like the 412-in-1, and it's not that much more expensive. The wiring's a little different, but not much. And so you could always go with the 412-in-1 if you wanted to, the Game Elf board, or, go with, there's so many other options, too, for vertical. So you could decide what you want to do on that, but yeah, it's just kind of up to you. I mean, 60-in-1s, though, if you want one, like I said, eBay, Amazon seems to be the best. Let's see, Tim, we have, hi guys, I have a Miss Pac-Man cocktail that after being on 30 minutes, the screen goes into test mode, then the monitor starts making a clicking sound. So what do you think there, Tim? A clicking sound from the monitor. So typically when we think clicking sound from the monitor, we would think like flyback or cap, right, Tim?
Yeah, bad cap or something. If it's pretty consistent, does he still hear the gameplay after that? And
It says it goes into test
blank,
mode.
He said? Test mode. Okay, that's
yeah.
more
I
of
mean,
a
it's
board
weird that the
issue
monitor's
then.
making the clicking sound though, and it goes into test mode. But it could be a frequency or sync issue with the test mode that's having an issue there. Check your power supply voltage whenever it happens, and see where you're at. That would be probably like something I would recommend. Just make sure that the voltage is good at that point. Could be. I mean, if it's going into test mode, if it resets after 30 minutes, I mean, it obviously could be a board issue of some sort. And Tim, I actually, because the Miss Pac-Man question earlier, I put all those great Pac-Man links that I usually put in there, Lawnmower Man's page, the Mike's Arcade, Pac-Man troubleshooting page, and things like that in the show description down below. And so Tim D6, I would highly recommend that you check some of those links because those will also have some troubleshooting issues. It's possible that your Z80 could be having problems after 30 minutes, could be overheating at some point and then causing the game to either reset or have issues. The ticking sound though from the monitor is very strange because typically that would indicate more of a monitor issue, but you're saying it goes into test mode, so it could just be matching with the test mode is having a problem or something like the monitor matching the sync with the test mode is having problems. And so, what screen after that 30 minutes is happening? I mean, the monitor starts making a clicking noise, does the monitor just go off? Does the monitor stay on and you get a grid-like pattern? What happens after that 30 minutes? Take a picture of it and let us see it. That will tell us a little bit about what's going on as well. But the fact that the fact that it's happening after 30 minutes means that there's some component. It could be some chips, an IC chip on the board. Could be something on the monitor that after a while is starting to heat up and actually causing issues, which usually means that's a bad chip or a bad cap or something like that. And so, he says gameplay goes away. So if the gameplay goes away, then it's probably something in the monitor at that point. So the monitor's probably staying on 30 minutes and going bad. Tim, this sounds like something in the power supply section. We've seen this a lot when the filter cap goes bad on a monitor chassis, and so you may need to replace the filter cap. Tim, is there anything else that you would recommend here to Dan D6?
No, I would definitely replace those filter caps right in the power supply section, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those
what was that, Tim?
Those little tiny ones.
Absolutely. And so, or you could have a shorten your flyback, and that's what Joe actually mentioned. It's possible that you could have a shorten your flyback at that point. It could be just getting so hot, and then, it's starting to short out or something to that effect. The fact that it takes time, though, typically would mean, like I said, like something like a cap that's having some issues. It's possible we have a chip or something like that overheating flyback. I mean, it's possible, but horizontal output transistor could be getting too hot as well and going into shutdown. But it's going to be one of those issues right there. And what I'd probably do is whenever it shuts down, check the B+ voltage on the monitor and see where it's at, right, Tim? So make sure the B+ voltage is still in range. If you have a B+ voltage drop, that's pretty much a high voltage issue right there. You know it. And so check the B+ voltage whenever it does after that 30-minute time period to see. But yeah, we've actually seen this like a lot with filter caps going bad. And so would probably recommend replacing the filter cap, doing a whole cap kit if you haven't done a cap kit in a while. But yeah, try some of those things and see if it helps you out. So check the B+ voltage whenever it shuts down, see where you're at. I mean, it may just die. If it just dies, then we know that's something before that point. But it's possible. Flyback's definitely possible. Bad hot's definitely possible. Bad filter cap's definitely possible. Anything on the high voltage line as being bad is possible. And if you want to give us your model of your monitor chassis, we can help you troubleshoot further. So I'll leave it there. Let's see here, Tim. I was trying to see if there's anything else. I think we're caught up. So there you go. So Tim, I think we'll go ahead and move to the news section of the live show here. And the first story we have, Tim, is actually an update on a story that we had last month. And so let me go ahead and throw this up here. The Sea Cave Arcade sustains more damage as stolen SUV runs into front of their building. So, Tim, you may remember that last month we had a story about the Sea Cave Arcade, and they had a guy, an axe-wielding man, you may remember, that actually came in and damaged like a ton of their stuff. And so they had just reopened their doors after this axe-wielding man damaged most of their equipment. And of course, they sustain another blow, Tim, as a stolen SUV runs into the front of their building around 8 p.m. on January 12th. The driver of the vehicle jumped out immediately after the incident occurred, with the vehicle still in drive, leaving the other passengers to escape on foot from the police who were in pursuit. One of the owner's friends was pushed through a brick wall, the front brick wall there, when the vehicle collided with the building and was taken to the hospital for medical attention. Tim, he got seriously hurt, but it does sound like he's going to be able to recover. But of course, he's got a lot of medical bills. They have set up a GoFundMe for him. So, and you guys can check the Sea Cave Arcade's Facebook page if you want to, and that's you can donate if you want to do that. But he's gonna have some medical bills for sure, Tim, and it obviously was not his fault. And so with that in mind,
crazy.
Yeah, crazy. I know. It's like after after everything that happened with that axe wielding guy that came in and literally just damaged with his axe and rocks, like all of their monitor stuff. It's just amazing that they had this happen like literally about a month later. I mean, golly, you want to talk about bad luck, Tim?
That is terrible luck.
Yeah, so they still have their GoFundMe page set up if you guys want to make a donation to them, and I would encourage it if you have some extra money lying around, because golly, I mean, you can't talk man, that is some really bad luck. First you have a guy come in basically and damage every piece of equipment you have, and then you have an SUV run into the front of your store. I don't think there's too many establishments that can say that happened within a month's time to them, and like I said, they're going to need all the help they can get. And you can donate to them. You can donate to his buddy who's going to have a lot of medical bills from being pushed through the front of the brick wall of their establishment. But Tim, hopefully they're able to recover from this. I mean, it's hard enough recovering from just the axe wielding damage, but now the entire front of their building is damaged, and then they're having to recover from that as well. So just if you have anything around that you can donate or spare, please send it over to the Sea Cave Arcade. Help them out, because they've had a pretty rough couple of months, Tim.
That's just crazy.
It really is. And golly, I mean, guys, it's hard enough running an arcade now with COVID, let alone like having all the other stuff that they've had happen to them. And so, like I said, if you can support them in any way, please do. So, okay, Tim, this was another story that we published this month, and it is we put it on our Facebook page, Twitter pages, but it's the Gritty Underground Network bringing Japan's arcades to the U.S. And Tim, this story covers the author's journey to import a Musica arcade from Japan and get it working here in the United States. The article talks about the individuals who import the games from Japan for buyers, as well as the network of hackers and modders who are working on the software side of things to allow these machines to be played outside of their native country. It contains some great information for anyone who wants to own an imported arcade game in the future. And Tim, with Japan closing down so many arcades, and a lot of people, you guys have maybe seen stories about how the Japanese arcade scene right now is hurting. A lot of the arcades have closed down. That means there's a glut of arcade games right now there. And so these importers have been buying them up and selling them to people here. But Tim, as you can imagine, there's like an internal network there in Japan that a lot of these games have to connect to in order to work properly, and that does not exist here in the United States. And so there are groups of modders for every game that basically have been trying to recreate this network here in the United States. It talks about these people in the article, which is really fascinating. So if you own an import Japanese game and are looking for some help to get all the features unlocked, getting it on a network, you may contact some of the people that are in the article to see if they can help you. But Tim, importing games from Japan may be a good option for getting arcade games if you're still looking for them, because it does seem like there's going to be quite a glut of them coming over pretty soon, just due to the fact that a lot of arcades are closing. What are your thoughts on this story, Tim?
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm glad that somebody's kind of putting in the work and doing all that. I know we got another story coming up that's closely related to this one. But yeah, there's definitely at least some kind of market here, or it wouldn't be worth the trouble. But I wondered how much of a market is, until it's not worth the trouble anymore.
Right, but as long as the Japanese arcades are closing and there's a glut of games, I think importers are going to be able to make pretty good money because they're probably going to be able to buy that stuff pretty dirt cheap as long as the market is flooded. And so if you're, the story tells about 2 importers who are doing this. So if you get in touch with those guys, I mean, they're probably going to make pretty good money because, they're buying them dirt cheap over there. They are having to get them to the United States, which is probably one of the most expensive parts of it right now with the way that the ports are and everything. But once they get them here, they can probably turn around and make pretty good money on them just because of the, like I said, the status of Japanese arcades right now. And speaking of that, Tim, we do have a story about Sega, and I think a lot of you guys have already seen this story. But after 50 years, Sega arcades are officially set to disappear from Japan. Now, Tim, please look at the wording of this headline. This is a well-worded headline. Some of the headlines for this story are not so well worded, but the thing is, it says Sega arcades are officially set to disappear from Japan. Right, and well, not only that, Tim, the manufacturing arm is not going out of business.
Okay.
That's the key. I think people, some headlines kind of equate Sega's like amusement arcade, operation arm with their arcade manufacturing arm, but those are 2 different things. And so although Sega is getting out of the running an arcade part of it, the operating part of it, they're still going to manufacture and sell arcade games, correct?
That's the way I understand
it. Yeah, and this article pretty much goes on to even say that. And so it says here, Sega Sammy has announced that it is selling the remaining 14.9% of its Sega Entertainment division, which runs its game centers across Japan, to rental business Genda Inc. All Sega game centers in Japan will have their Sega branding changed to Geigo, Tim. So Gijo, I don't know. Gigo, I don't know. However it's pronounced, something like that. It's worth noting that although Sega's entertainment business ran the arcade locations, the company manufactured and sold arcade machines themselves separately and will likely continue to do so. So, even though Sega may be giving up operating arcades, they're not going to give up manufacturing and selling arcade games. And those are 2 different distinctions. Some of the articles we've seen, Tim, have not done a really great job at making that distinction. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people are thinking, Sega's not going to make arcade games anymore. No, that's not the case. Sega is going to continue to make arcade games, so you guys can be happy about that. But they're not going to operate arcades in Japan anymore. And Tim, like we talked about, right now with the rules that the Japanese government has in place for arcades, it's hard for arcades to make money at all. And so this seems like a perfect time to get out of that business. And I think this is just Sega cutting some losses. What do you think?
That's exactly what I think's going on. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are better times in the future if they didn't reopen, but we'll see.
Right, and I don't know if you guys have heard of some of the rules that they put on Japanese arcades. There have been several articles that we've discussed from Kotaku and other sources that have shown some of the different rules that they've had in place that really hurt arcades. And so it's really kind of shut down their business quite a bit. And so we really feel for all the arcade owners over in Japan. But this is Sega kind of cutting their losses, getting out, while everything's, kind of down, while the market's down. And this could be a good investment for Genda, depending on if that market ever comes back, which hopefully at some point it will. So, okay, Tim, we also had this story, which is very interesting. A lot of you guys know this is the 50th anniversary of Atari, Tim. The 50th anniversary, golly. That should make us all feel old. But This was from Polygon, and this is inside Atari's plan to reinvent itself again. And it says here in 2022, Atari will celebrate its 50th anniversary. In doing so, the company's new boss, Wade Rosen, is determined to turn a badly tarnished gaming icon into something relevant to the present and to the future. Rosen's immediate plan centers around upgraded retro games, and in the long term, he says he wants to turn Atari back into a game publishing powerhouse. Rosen says he feels really passionately about the VCS as well, and sees it as an awesome opportunity. So, Tim, what do you think about this, upgrading retro games and then wants to turn them into a game publishing powerhouse? I mean, what do you think about that plan for Atari? Does that seem like the right direction for them to go?
Well, I definitely is better than going the other direction. But talk is cheap. I guess, everybody's just going to have to wait and see how they're going to do. I don't know. I root for them. And I hope so, but boy, it sure seems like an uphill battle.
Absolutely. And I thought it was interesting that he said he was passionate about the VCS and he saw it as an awesome opportunity. And one of the things he also said that I didn't put here, Tim, is he said you can't compare the VCS to the PS5 and the Xbox. And I kind of thought to myself, why can't you compare them? You're competing with them technically. I mean, I know that they're not the same thing. Like, I understand that, but I mean, price-wise, you're even close to competing with them. I mean, a VCS is $300. You can buy an Xbox Series S for $300, Tim. I mean, so aren't you competing with them? That would be my point. So,
who else is your competition then, if not them?
Exactly. I mean, look at Nintendo. I've got my nice Nintendo sweatshirt on tonight, Tim. Look at Nintendo and what they've been able to do over all these years with the Switch now. I mean, the Switch is one of the best-selling consoles of all time at this point. They've sold a ton of those things, and it is a fantastic console, Tim. It's like Nintendo has been able to do it well for years, has been able to do this. And it just seems like Atari, the VCS, I mean, there's nothing really special about it. It's basically like it's a Linux box with a nice packaging and a nice OS, and that's about it, right?
That's it.
So, I mean, if you guys own a VCS, I'd love to hear from somebody who owns one. If any of you guys in the live chat, or if you're watching this after the fact and you own a VCS, I would love to hear your opinions of it. Because I do see them at Best Buy, Tim, when I go shopping and things, I see them being sold, but I don't know who's buying them. And so if you've bought one, let us know what your impressions of the VCS is. Because, I mean, when I see the videos and things, like I said, it just looks like a Linux box with a nice front end on the top of it. It doesn't look like anything special to me. But maybe it's special to you, or maybe you can sell me on it. I want to hear. So if somebody can sell me on the VCS, please let us know in the live chat here or down in the comments for this. Or email us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. I'd love to hear. So, but yeah, I don't know, Tim. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if this is going to bring Atari back. I mean, we'll just have to see, right?
Yeah, time will tell.
Exactly, so. Well, Tim, the last bit of news that we have is a sad one. And Tim, I feel like for like the last 4 months, we've been ending with sad news every month, and it's always somebody passing away. And it sucks. It sucks. And this time, it's another one that it's just terrible. Lyman Sheats has passed away. Famed programmer and world-class pinball player Lyman Sheats Jr. has passed away at the age of 55. Lyman was involved in the programming of several beloved pinball machines, including Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness, Monster Bash, and AC/DC. His unassuming brilliance in game creation and masterly pinball playing will be sorely missed by everyone in the pinball community who hugely benefited from his programming talents and his lasting influence on rule set design. And Tim, I took that directly from Pinball News, and I don't think I could have said it better myself. Guys, there's so many games that if it weren't for Lyman, you wouldn't have. And AC/DC is a great example of one. But he has worked so closely with so many designers over the years, so many great designers, and the games that he programmed, you can tell. And when he put his touch on a machine, Tim, he just knew that the rules were going to be tight, that it was going to play well, and it was going to be a good experience. And so it's sad that we lost him. And he was only 55, Tim. It's not like he was that old. It's just a really, really rough time right now just for everybody. It just seems like I said, every month it seems like we're hearing about somebody else passing away. And it's just, golly, it's just making me depressed. So, but, just prayers and thoughts for his family, golly, and we just hope that they're okay. And Tim, it seems like this was a sudden thing. It was not something that anybody expected, and so we hope that they find comfort. And, I know it's you can't get over it, Tim, but hopefully they'll at least find some comfort in it. So, but anyway, guys, we're done, and like I said, I keep ending on downers, Tim, which really sucks. But it's just the way the world is right now. I feel like it's like, golly, it's just so. But hey, you and me are still here.
Still here.
We've done 60 of these live show things. We did podcasting before that, and golly, it's been a long time running, Tim. Maybe you and me will eventually do the Arcade 1-Up repair tip show at some point, like we were talking about. So maybe that's what this is going to transition into once all the arcades are gone. I have no idea. But anyway, guys, we want to thank you for being here tonight, and so we're going to go ahead and wrap up here with some announcements and some contact information for you guys. And we always want to remind you guys that we want your arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're always looking for people to submit short videos, about 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure to put a plug in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. And Tim, we always throw this out there because we know there's a lot of arcade repair or arcade related channels that may be right on the verge of getting monetized, or maybe you're just trying to get over like a certain subscriber hump. And so we can help you with that. We don't mind pointing our audience to your content if we feel like your content is good. So if you guys want a little bump, please let us know. Send over a video that we can show to our subscribers, and we can send them your way, so that way we can get you over that subscriber hump, get you into that monetization realm or something like that, and help you out. So, and then Tim, we have our contact information, and of course we've mentioned it a couple times here during the show, but we'll mention it again. Our general email address is at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and if you put live show in the subject, we'll save it for the live show. So, or if you just want us to answer it when we get around to it, you can just send it in. Again, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. That email goes to me and Tim, and we'll try to answer your question when we get around to it. And we also have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com, youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode. Tim, some of the questions we answered tonight were from the previous show, so there are actually comments left. So, I mean, just to show you, we do that. So if you leave a comments on this live show, we'll try to get around to them on the next episode. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, we know you know where the YouTube page is. But if you're listening to the audio version of this and you want to watch the after show, or you want to see video of that rainbow screen that we had earlier in the show, then you can go to youtube.arcaderepairtips.com and view this episode there and see it. And then, Tim, we have our podcast feed, which contains our live show audio. It contains our interviews podcast. It does also has the question and answer podcast whenever Rusty and Eric get around to that. And you can find that feed at iTunes at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, itunes.arcaderepairtips.com. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review on iTunes and let us know how we're doing. And we'd love to hear you there. We have our Spotify page at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com. You can also listen to us there. We have our Stitcher radio page at stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com. Or you can find us wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Tim, if you do a search for Arcade Repair on most podcast apps, you will find us. So again, make sure you subscribe there, and you can hear all of our great content there in audio form. And then we have our social media pages. We have our Facebook page at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. And we want to thank Mark for all of his contributions to that. Tim, he's been posting a lot of that Rush Pinball information. If you guys have been subscribing to our feeds, and all that great information was there from Mark. He really does a lot of our pinball posting there. So we want to thank Mark for his contributions as a community manager. He really does a great job for us. So you can see all of his great posts and the rest of our posts at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. Or if you would rather do it on Twitter, you can go to twitter.arcaderepairtips.com and follow us there. Or you can just go to Arcade Repair on Twitter. That is our handle. But twitter.arcaderepairtips.com to follow us there. Tim, I think that's about it. That's about it for the regular show. We're going to start into the after show here in just about 5 minutes or so after this live show episode. So, Tim, do you have anything exciting for the after show that you want to tease?
We'll talk about Cobra Kai. I finally got to watch the rest of that when I was sick. I know that probably everybody saw that a couple months ago, but I finally got around to that. And we'll talk about the market situation and probably about the NFL playoffs. Those were some really exciting games, and maybe give our Super Bowl predictions.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a big game coming up, Tim, right? Big football game. So, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that a little bit. MLB Lockout news, Tim, there were some updates today. I don't know if you saw that. Basically, Major League Baseball asked the government to intervene. And so we're going to see how that works out. Olympics start tonight, Tim. You could be watching figure skating, and instead you're watching us. So I appreciate that a whole lot. I don't know how much crossover audience, Tim, we have between figure skating and arcade repair. I don't know, like what, some people may really like figure skating and are not watching us because of that. I have no idea. But the Olympics opening ceremonies are tomorrow, Tim. Are you planning on watching any of the Winter Olympics?
I'll watch some of it probably, but it's not high on my to-do list.
I hear you. Now, Tim, you also have a big event coming up over the next 2 days that you may talk about. Don't want to spoil anything. Yes. Listen to the after show for that. But I think, Tim, that will wrap us up for the regular show. So if you guys are so inclined, if you don't want to stay tuned to the after show, then we want to thank you for being here for the regular show, answering some arcade repair related questions with us, and then going through some news and discussion of the day. Tim, is there anything you want to add here to the regular show before we get into the after show content?
Just want to thank everybody for watching and participating. It always is a fun to do this with you guys.
Absolutely. We want to thank all you guys who are here live. The live chat, Tim, is always entertaining. We want to thank you guys for being here. It's always so much fun with you guys here. And Tim, we always say this every time we do it, but I always like to say it's not the same without you here. And Tim, it's because we interact with you in the live chat. So when you're here with the interaction, Tim, it makes it a different show. So every time you're here, whoever you are, if you're here for the live show, then guess what? We're going to read your comments in the live chat. We're going to do all that fun stuff with you, interact with you through the show, and you make the show great. You guys, it really is all y'all. Me and Tim just sit here, we answer y'all's questions, we have some fun, but we want to thank you guys for being here, for watching us, and for participating. We love it, guys. You guys are the best. So, but anyway, we want to thank you guys for watching this episode of the live show. Episode 61, March 2022, coming at you next month. And remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, Tim, when you fix the game,
you play the game.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you either in March or here in just about 5 minutes for the after show. Have a good night.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
Hey, and we're back. So while we were away, we found out that my daughter does not have school tomorrow. They canceled it. And that your wife is a teacher, and her school got canceled as well, right, Tim?
Yep. All the schools pretty much within about 100 miles from here probably canceled tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the ice on the road, it's been raining here, guys, and it's supposed to get down into the teens tonight. And so more than likely, there's going to be a nice sheet of ice on the ground tomorrow morning. And like I said, it's just hard to drive on ice anyway, and we don't have the equipment to melt it that fast. And so, yeah, we're all staying home tomorrow for the most part. I don't have, Fridays for me are usually light. I usually get off early, Tim. So I'll dial in, do my backups and things, and call it a day. So, but Tim, you sent me some pictures of an event that's going on at your house, like in what, 2 days?
2 days, yeah.
So, I mean, I could show them, but I mean, I mean, if I hold this up to the camera, I don't know if it means anything. It's kind of hard to see. But let's see if we get... Oh, can we get it? Yeah, it's hard to see, guys, and sorry, there's a reflection. But this may look like it's set up for something in particular. Tim, what's going on?
Lacey is getting married, and so we're going to have it here at the house. And I say small, but you've got about 40 people maybe all here at one house, so it will be kind of a busy, it'll look busy, even though it's a pretty small wedding.
Now, Tim, I saw the pictures, and it looks, I mean, it really looks like your, it looks like your house is really nice. I think I might rent it out for a wedding sometime, if you don't mind.
I don't think I want to do this all the time. It's a lot of work. We had to move. I should take a picture of the garage and all the couches stacked up out there,
Yeah, and the garage, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, Tim, we filmed some videos out there, but I don't think any of them have been released. But your garage area, you've got a 3-car garage that's pretty wide open, which is really nice. So you're not having to put anybody out there, are you?
No, it's a one-car garage right now, full of games and then couches right now. So
there you go. Sounds good. Well, Tim, let's go ahead and just talk about how January went for you. I don't know if you did anything in particular, but did you have anything go on in January you want to talk about?
Well, I did some traveling with work. I just came back from El Paso. Wasn't a last-minute deal, but I should have made an announcement just in case we had any collectors out there. It's actually, but all I did was work and sleep, so I was really busy. In 4 days I was there, I was trying to get as much done as possible. But definitely a whole different world out there in El Paso. I thought it was beautiful, though, and a lot of friendly people. I really didn't feel unsafe anywhere I went. For a big town, El Paso is really not that bad. It's real spread out and stuff, so I enjoyed it. Have you ever been out that direction?
I have not, Tim, and I'd like to go, but did you drive or did you fly? Because, I mean, literally driving to El Paso would be like driving to, like, Florida.
Yeah, I flew and then got a rental car. I actually went and worked a couple of places in New Mexico too. So kind of just reminds you of the Old West movies and stuff. If you've seen that kind of stuff, I just kind of expected a stagecoach to pull up or something. But it's very, very pretty if you're not used to it. If you live there all the time, it probably just looks dirty.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I said, I'd love to make the trip sometime. I have not been that far west, Tim. I mean, that's basically as far west as you can get before you get out of Texas. So, but I have not, I've not traveled that way. And Tim, for people who don't know where we're located, we're in East Texas, which means that we are literally like an hour and a half away from Louisiana. And so, like, to drive that, how long is it, Tim? Is it like 11 hours?
I would think, yeah, that would probably be a 10 or 11-hour drive.
You can make it to Florida. Literally, you can make it to Florida in the same amount of time.
Right.
So that's how big Texas is. People don't always realize. And Tim, you talked about your trip to Rhode Island and how you can hit a whole bunch of states right there because they're all pretty close to each other. If you drive in one direction in Texas, you're going to be going that way for a while.
A long time.
So that sounds fun, Tim. As far as me in January, my January was pretty normal, which I was glad about. I spent a lot of the months, unfortunately, recovering from COVID, like I talked about. I feel like I'm back to normal, though. Last live show, I was definitely not. Fatigue was definitely real with that. But I finally feel like I'm kind of past that now and feeling good, which is good. So, but today's been kind of, I mean, I worked from home and I got a lot done, but, it's still kind of a lazy day when you're just kind of sitting around working on a computer at home. And so it was good and, it was nice to be home with everybody with the ice and everything. And, and I got to wear my cool Nintendo sweatshirt most of the time and stay warm. So.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Absolutely. We did get a question before the show wrapped up from Joe, and he says, worst, hardest game Tim has ever worked on. And go.
Pole position would definitely be up there. Kicks gave us a lot of problems to finally ever get it. Really, I would say 100% was a challenge. Seawolf, just because of the age. I don't know that I ever got it 100% going, but those would probably be in my top 3.
Now, what about the newer stuff that like you had at Chuck E. Cheese when you were working there, Tim? Is there anything offhand that you can think of that was particularly difficult?
The Sega Wave Runner, the jet ski game, it had a lot of mechanical parts and electronics that it was constantly a constant battle with it. Brave Firefighter was another Sega game. It was just because of the hoses and stuff. They were, and then probably we'll never forget working on and repairing all the time the Global VR with the big headset. I see people still posting in some Facebook groups about theirs, and yeah, those were kind of nightmares to work on.
Absolutely. And yeah, I remember some of the trouble we had with Wave Runner, Tim, just kind of working on that, and the global VR stuff. Brave Firefighters, Tim, is something, anytime I talk to a firefighter, that's like the one game they always want. And you don't see a whole lot of them. We used to see them at auction, fairly often, but now it's really tough to find them, so.
Yeah, we had done a lot of kind of bulletproofing of that game too. We mounted the things and we put new hoses and stuff, and so by the time we got ready to get rid of it, it actually had become a pretty steady game and a good moneymaker.
Sounds good, Tim. Well, let's move back to just our general topics here, Tim. Now, you mentioned a little bit about some stock market talk. Tim, the stock market has been very volatile, to say the least, and we've been on a downward trend, it seems like, over the last month. Have you made any moves that we should know about?
Yeah, I moved everything into my savings account and quit investing for a while. I saw this coming. There's still money to be made every day. There's still stocks that go up. But boy, even big stocks like Facebook took a dive hard today. We know what's been going on with Spotify and stuff. So realistically, I'm kind of at the point where I'm watching to see how low. Before I actually did buy some Google yesterday. That I hadn't bought in a long time, just because I thought it got down low enough, and they still have they had some really good news and reports coming out. But it may be turning around here in the next couple months where I start investing, well, I call it stocks on sale. But I'll probably be looking at more long-term investments.
Yeah, and now, Tim, you can't say that all the stocks are on sale right now. It's like, I like to say a lot of times when the market is down. Now, Tim, here's the thing about Spotify, though. I always felt, and Facebook in particular, I've always felt like those two stocks were kind of overinflated anyway.
Yeah, definitely with Spotify, for sure.
Right. We had actually talked about how high Spotify was selling for based on their revenues, and that it was always way too high based on what their earnings were. And so I almost feel like this is just a correction for Spotify. I mean, people are looking at it like it all has to do with the Joe Rogan stuff, and that's fine if you think that, or that it has to do with their earnings and stuff like that. To me, I mean, the thing is it was always overinflated. There were always a lot of investors who were just investing in it, I think, because of the name of Spotify. And so I think maybe some of those people are getting out now. And so plus with the earnings and the Joe Rogan stuff, we're seeing this downward trend kind of with Spotify. But to me, it's just the market kind of correcting where it should actually be anyway. So I don't know if now's a good time to invest in Spotify. But it may hit a little bit of a bottom here, Tim, in a little bit. And maybe that will be the good point at which you may want to put some money in.
Right. It's definitely... the market's taking too much time to research and do due diligence for me. I don't have that kind of time to put into it right now.
Agreed. And like I said, Tim, it's not since it's so volatile, you have to really do more research than you normally would in order to make sure that you're making good decisions. And so, like when the market is steadily going up, it's a lot easier because you can kind of bet on things a little bit more and say, well, as long as the market keeps moving in the direction it's moving, then we're going to be okay. But when the market's going down, you think to yourself, I've really got to do my research. I got to make sure I spend my money wisely, because more than likely, if I invest in something, there's a good chance we're going to hit a downward trend. So unless I know it's going to make money, I probably need to stay out, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is just not a good time.
Agreed. So hopefully the market will come back. But Tim, obviously we're having massive inflation, as most people know, and the Fed is trying to correct that by slowly raising interest rates. Well, what does that do, Tim, when you slowly raise interest rates? It slows down the economy.
Yes.
And so they're actually trying to do that, though. They're trying to slow it down. And so we're seeing this starting a little bit. But as the Fed continues to raise those interest rates, we're going to continue to see a slowdown, because that means cars are more expensive. And cars are already expensive, Tim. And so if interest rates start going up, cars will become more expensive. That means businesses that have loans out, those become more expensive. Everything starts becoming more expensive as we raise interest rates. And so that tends to slow down the economy quite a bit. And so I think that's also a factor that's playing into the market the way it is that we're trying to correct the inflation a little bit. We're raising the interest rates. And so we're having a little bit of a tumble because of that. So, but you guys shouldn't listen to anything I say, because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. Right, Tim?
Right. Don't take it. We're not E.F. Hutton or nothing, right?
Exactly correct. So this is just what it's like when you're looking at markets, Tim. It's just the way we look at them. And I mean, look, I'm not even a savvy investor. I'm a guy who throws money at things I think I can make money at. I mean, that's all I do. It's not like I don't even call myself savvy. Retail investor is probably the best term that most people have used for people like me and Tim, and so that's what we try to go by. But like I said, the market right now and the way it is, it may be good just to, if you're going to invest in anything, invest in some safe things. So. Let's talk about sports, Tim. What'd you think of the playoffs, the NFL playoffs?
I think this was probably the best playoff experience that I've ever seen, and I'm getting old, so as far as every game was tough, on the line, so many of them were won on last-second kicks, overtime games. They were very fought hard and played well, and just really enjoyable, even though when your team, like ours, gets knocked out really early, I still enjoyed watching some of the other games, and probably will be rooting for the Bengals when it comes, because I think everybody in our area of the country just really likes Joe Burrow, and just it's fun to watch. I like their young kicker, and I just kind of feel like they're kind of the underdogs. I did not dislike the Rams. I think that they're a pretty exciting team to watch. I actually think it's going to be just a good game,
Yeah, I didn't, and speaking of some playoffs, Tim, I did not see the 49ers getting past the Packers. Who saw that? Right. Golly, that was crazy. And and I thought that they may have a shot against the Rams. Rams pulled it out. I was like, that's good for them. I thought we may have a little bit of a underdog story, Tim, but that's how it goes. Mr. Dwayne 79 says, I'm so happy the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Last time they were in the Super Bowl, I was 9.
Yeah. John, I'm going to excuse myself. Keep going. It just won't take but 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, is anybody, I'm curious if anybody has money on anybody. If you guys like to gamble on sports, I don't know how many of you do. Or if you have imaginary money that you'd like to gamble with, who you're putting your money on for the Super Bowl, whether it's the Bengals or the Rams. Yeah, please let us know in the live show chat room or in the comments below who you're deciding should win. But I'm kind of with Tim. I think most people around here are rooting for the Bengals to pull it out. I think, like I said, Joe Burrow's seems like a really good guy. And just, looking forward to a good game, if nothing else. And based on the playoffs that we've seen so far, it looks like that's going to be the case. We did mention in the regular show that the Olympics are coming up. And so, I said figure skating's on tonight. And, you're either watching that or you're watching us, I guess. So I don't know if you guys are watching the figure skating. But I don't know how much of the Olympics I'm going to get to watch, just because it feels like this is a busy time of year for us. And so I do like hockey, as you guys probably know. I mean, I like to watch ice hockey. It's so super exciting. It's it's fast moving. There's no downtime hardly in it. So I may try to catch a little bit of the ice hockey here and there. But other than that, I don't know if there's any specific events that excite me. I'm not really much of a figure skating fan. I may watch a little bit of it. Curling, somebody mentioned in the live chat earlier, obviously not much of a curling fan. I think it's really cool when I watch it, when I actually have time to kind of sit down and do that thing. But I don't know if there's anything appointment watching wise for me when it comes to the Olympics. So if there are, let me know. Tim, I was just saying, is there any Olympic event that's like a appointment watching to you when it comes to the Winter Olympics?
Believe it or not, I actually enjoy watching curling. I'll watch probably some hockey. I like skating. I'll probably, something will catch my attention. I don't dislike, there's a few events that just don't, I'm not a big figure skater watcher or anything like that, but you never know. I like competition and I like to root for Team USA and stuff. So I'll probably end up watching, but I kind of, once you understand how curling works, and you remember we win the gold medal last time, or it was crazy, and so we've actually gotten competitive in it. I think it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I like to watch that. I like some of the speed skating, Tim. That's fun to watch. I don't know if you've seen much of that.
Oh yeah.
And I mentioned ice hockey, of course, I like NHL hockey anyway. And the NHL players are supposed to play in the Olympics this year. I mean, the Players Union had made a big deal about it, but because of COVID and then it kind of putting their schedule behind, they had to cancel that. So no NHL players are playing in the Olympics as far as ice hockey is concerned. But I still enjoy watching it, and so I'll definitely catch some games here and there if I can. But I don't know if there's any other Winter Olympic sports that I'm really super excited about.
I'll tend to watch some ski jumping and slalom skiing when it gets to the medal rounds and stuff. It can get pretty exciting to watch.
Bobsledding, Tim. I know that the Jamaican bobsled team is back. I heard that. So as a fan of Cool Runnings, I've seen that. I think that's cool. Let's see. Geeklight08 says he loves curling, and he got hooked because when he was overseas, it was the only event that was ever on AFN that he could watch. So Armed Forces Network, Tim. So there you go. And Tim, as far as the Super Bowl split, looks like we've got 2 for the Bengals, and nobody else chimed in. So it looks like the Bengals are taking the Arcade Repair Tips vote. So
I do think it'll be a close game, but I don't know that the Bengals will win. I wouldn't lay a lot of money on it. I'm just rooting for them.
There you go. I will mention something about the MLB lockout that I mentioned at the end of the show, that the MLB has asked for basically the government to step in and be an arbiter between the Players Union and the MLB, which means that the negotiations are not going so well, Tim. Because if you need an arbiter, that means that things are not going very well. So
they need to get going.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really hoping that that we're going to have a season this year. I want to go to baseball. I want to see baseball on TV. But it's looking less and less like that's going to happen. So, Tim, let's shift gears real quick. Cord cutting talk. I don't know if you saw this, but Netflix is hiking their prices on all their plans.
Well, I have seen that.
So I would
feel that one.
I was about to say, I would argue that now may be the time to do away with Netflix.
It's getting, we watch something on there, but nothing religiously, and we've had enjoyed it for years. But yeah, at some point, it's got to be like, gosh, is it really worth when there's plenty of other stuff to watch?
Agreed. Paramount Plus, HBO, HBO Max, Hulu has really been stepping it up, Tim, with their content. Disney Plus. I mean, you've got a lot of options out there, guys. And here's what you can do. You cancel Netflix, and then when there's a show on there you want to watch, like Cobra Kai, Tim, that we're about to talk about, you subscribe again for a month. You'll watch the show. You unsubscribe. So,
maybe.
Yeah. So, and then, Tim, we just found out, and I just mentioned to you, that Amazon Prime is also going up in price. So from $119 to $139, they're going up $20 a year. So instead of the $10 a month, it's going to be like more like what, $12 a month, something like that. Because Jeff Bezos needs another yacht, Tim, and I mean, you just got to get, you know how it is, you just got to raise those prices and everything. But yeah, so apparently Amazon Prime is going up and Netflix is going up. And Tim, to be honest with you, if you're only in to Amazon Prime for the shipping, Walmart Plus is better.
Okay.
So if shipping is the only reason you have Prime, Walmart Plus is better. I mean, just it gets here faster. They don't have quite the selection of Amazon, but it's close. So, I mean, something to keep in mind. Let's see. Oh, Mina says, I sent the picture via email, and I didn't know that Tim's live show in the subject line. So, Mina, we got your email, and during the break, me and Tim looked at it, and it does look to be a sync issue with your game. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that the sync wire that runs from the board to your monitor input connector is making a good connection. That's number one. If it is, then you may need to try to adjust the frequency or sync adjustment on your monitor and make sure that your B plus voltage adjustment is dialed in properly. If all that is true, then you're having a issue with the sync circuit on your monitor chassis. So if you need additional help, you can send us a picture of the back of your arcade game, specifically of your monitor chassis. That's the little circuit board that hooks to your tube. And send that to us and we can tell you a little bit more about it. But it does look to be a sync issue. So again, check the sync wire that runs from your game board to your monitor. Make sure it's making a good connection. Try adjusting the frequency or the sync adjustments on your monitor chassis. There should be some knobs on there for that. Try adjusting those, or the hold. Sometimes the hold will do that as well, and see if that helps. And then also make sure that your B plus voltage is good. And like I said, if you need help with any of those steps, send us a picture of your monitor chassis and we can help you out. So let's see. Geeklight says there's always NASCAR, Tim. And, me and Tim went to a NASCAR race one time. Only been one time, but we had a good time. We mentioned that, and, I think we've talked about it a little bit, Tim, in the past. I have nothing against NASCAR. It's just that it's hard for me to get into. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, it's it's definitely better live and in person, I think. But just here getting parked and getting in there and getting out afterwards, it all of a sudden takes a lot of the joy out for me. But to each his own. I think it's fun to watch, definitely, and I would definitely go again if I get some tickets.
Me too, Tim. I mean, it was fun to go and everything, but it's just hard for me to sit there and watch it like on TV or something like that. Now, I've heard people say that Formula One is fantastic. And I have not gotten into that, Tim, but I've heard so many people say that is very addicting once you get into it. I don't know if you've got any experience with that, Tim, but I don't know if we have any Formula One fans here. If we do, let me know. TechJYT, I saw that Cedar Falls, Iowa is offering 10 gig home internet for only $117 a month. I'd love to have that kind of internet speed. You and me both. Now, I will say that I am on a 1 gigabit down connection here, which is really good for where I am. But my upload is not that fast, obviously, Tim. I think I'm capped at like 50 on my upload, 50 megabit, maybe 100. But, yeah, man, if I could have that kind of internet, that'd be awesome. So, okay, Tim. Well, I think we're past all of the general discussion stuff. Let's talk about movies and TV shows. Now, Tim, you mentioned one when we were talking before the show, and so you can go ahead and mention it again. I believe it's on Hulu, correct?
Yeah, we I've been watching. It's an older show, but ABC show called Revenge, and it's a little different than I thought it would be. And it's actually it's not gory. It's not really scary. It's just kind of a mystery that you are in it. Kind of one of those shows where it leaves you at good cliffhangers or 45-minute episodes. So you feel like, that it takes a while to get through a season if you like to kind of drag out a show or watch it nightly. But it's a good show for me and my wife. We have really enjoyed it. We're about to finish the first season. So we like it.
Sounds good, Tim. And I have heard of it, but like I mentioned to you, I had not seen it. And so I may have to check it out myself. Tim, I've been watching a lot of stuff. We've kind of gotten into there's been a lot of new shows that have come out. I think I've got everything on the list here. So, Tim, I got around to watching Ghostbusters Afterlife. Have you seen this?
No, I've been really wanting to watch it. How was it?
It was really, really good. Tim, I cried like a baby.
Oh,
Cried
okay.
like a baby.
Oh, okay.
No
Thanks
spoilers.
for that warning.
But I cried like a baby. I watched it, I have to watch movies in phases around here because I have kids and, and I'm tired when I go to bed at night. So usually I'll watch like half of one and then the other half. And it was like Saturday morning, I was watching the second half of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And literally it's me on the couch watching my iPad just crying, dude, crying.
Wow, okay.
So, I mean, it was awesome. Golly, it was good. So I don't want to give any spoilers though. And it's slow. It's slow to get there. The second half is where it picks up. Okay, so don't get frustrated watching the first half thinking, where's this heading? Where's this going? I promise the payoff is good. Okay, but you know how some TV shows, Tim, takes them a long time to work into the meat of everything? This is how it is with Ghostbusters Afterlife too.
Okay.
So, hey, if anybody's in the live chat and saw Ghostbusters Afterlife and didn't cry like a baby, let me know. Because, I mean, if you were a fan at all, golly, you had to. So it was very good, Tim. You need to watch it. The other movie that we've been watching around the house, and I think I mentioned that we had seen Encanto on Disney+. So obviously we're still watching that quite a bit. So, we don't talk about Bruno, which is the number one song on the Billboard music right now, Tim, has been played in our house, so many times. But on top of that cartoon, we've also been watching another cartoon movie my kids really like called Rumble. It was produced by the WWE was one of the productions, and it's basically about a monster wrestling league. And I know that sounds kind of lame, but it was really good. And my daughter and my son really like it. And they still watch it. They watched it over and over again, as much as they watched Encanto. So it's on Paramount Plus. It's called Rumble, and it's a cute kids movie. So I mean, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. My kids really liked it, and if you have Paramount Plus or you're doing one of the trials for it, then check it out. Tim, we've been watching some shows. So I've watched American Auto. Have you seen this one, Tim?
Never have seen it.
So it's done by the same people who did Superstore. Did you ever watch Superstore on NBC? So Superstore was basically like kind of like The Office, but it all took place in basically like a Walmart store.
Oh, yeah.
So American Auto is the same thing, but it all takes place inside of an auto company. It's a fictional auto company and all of kind of the things that they have to deal with. And it's really funny. If you like the workplace comedy style sitcom, then you're going to like American Auto. I'm enjoying it so far. I would recommend it to you. It's on NBC. You can watch it on Peacock too if you have Peacock. But American Auto is the show. And they're only 5 episodes in or something like that. So if you watch it now, you pick it up, you're not missing much. Tim, we started watching Ghosts on CBS/Paramount Plus. Have you seen Ghosts?
No.
So Ghost is a comedy about a couple that buys a house that is haunted by ghosts, and only the wife can see them. And it's humorous. It's funny. The ghosts are funny. And it's kind of sitcom-y, but basically they're fixing up this old house to be a B&B, and these ghosts are talking to the wife and trying to get her to do stuff, or just saying, trying to get her to do different things for them. And so it's really funny. Highly recommend it. First season's already done with, so you can binge it on Paramount Plus. But we've been watching that. We enjoy it. So let's see. YouTube Punk says The Expanse, the final season. Tim, are you a fan of The Expanse?
I have not seen it.
I have not either, so may have to pick that one up. Dragon Punch Dave says Ghostbusters Afterlife was definitely worth the watch. I agree. Slow, Tim. So if you watch the first half of it and you're like, where's this thing going? You're going to feel like that, but I promise payoff's worth it.
Okay.
Geeklight says, wife and I cannot get into American Auto. It's not for everybody, but like I said, I'm a sucker for the workplace comedy, and I feel like it, and I like cars, so that's part of it too. And so, American Auto, we're enjoying it. So speaking of cars, Tim, we did buy a new car, or not a new car, bought a used car for my wife. Right. I don't recommend doing that right now at all if you can avoid it. But I was putting so much money into my old car that I basically could have had a car payment. So, it felt like the right thing to do because of that. So, but if you can avoid buying a car, don't buy one. So,
all right.
Tim, we also have been watching How I Met Your Father, which is the How I Met Your Mother spinoff on Hulu.
Yeah, that's my next show probably to watch on Hulu.
So it's okay. It's not as good as the original, but we're enjoying it. We're watching it, and we're going to continue to watch it. So, I mean, it's not as good as How I Met Your Mother, but it's fun, and it's lighthearted, and we like that kind of stuff. So, The other thing I've been watching, Tim, is The Righteous Gemstones on HBO Max, which which is basically about a fictional televangelist family, and it is really funny.
I've seen 2 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny if you haven't seen it, and the second season is going on right now, and it's good as well. I like The Righteous Gemstones; it's good. Tim, I tried to watch Peacemaker, and I watched the first episode, but for some reason, I haven't pulled myself into watching the second yet. Like, I liked the first episode, but I don't know what it was about. Just couldn't. I can't bring myself to watch the next one yet. So, Peacemaker was good. But I've only watched 1 episode. I'm going to get around to watching the rest. Probably going to binge it whenever it finishes up its first season. So, and I already mentioned the Book of Boba Fett, which is fantastic for any Star Wars fans out there. And of course, if you watched any of The Mandalorian, the last 2 episodes have basically been The Mandalorian. So, if you like The Mandalorian, you should be watching it. But if you're a Boba Fett fan, Tim, for those of you guys who don't know, I have a Boba Fett bobblehead on my desk at work. Just to tell you how much of a Boba Fett fan I am. So, the Book of Boba Fett I am greatly enjoying. I'm loving every second of it, and highly encourage you guys to watch it as well. Tim, have you seen The Mandalorian at all? Golly, you need to be watching this.
Believe it or not, I have not.
You need to watch it. Just get Disney Plus and binge it. So,
yeah.
Book of Boba Fett's fantastic. Binge The Mandalorian, binge the Book of Boba Fett after that. It's worth your time. So... Okay, Tim, and the big one that we both watched, Cobra Kai. So, tell me what you thought.
Yeah, it was really good. They keep bringing in new old characters and stuff, and a little bit of it's getting a little cheesy. It's like they keep jumping back and forth teams and stuff, but in the end, I liked it. It's very entertaining, and look forward to next season for sure.
Yeah, I realize now that Cobra Kai is basically a teen drama, but with some nostalgia. And if it was any other teen drama, right, I would probably wouldn't even waste my time with it. But the fact that it's got these characters that I loved so much when I was a kid is the only reason I keep watching it. But basically, it's like one of those teen dramas that they have on Netflix anyway, like the one my wife watches with the kids at the beach, and I forget the name of it. But it's basically that, just with a lot of nostalgia attached. Now, a couple of complaints I had, and I don't want to spoil this too much for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I thought the team up did not go the way I wanted it to. I wanted to see a little bit more team up. What about you, Tim?
Yeah,
I'm trying not to spoil, but
it would. I thought it would work out a little bit better, and it kind of did, I guess, in the end when you look at how it worked out.
Right. I mean, it kind of got to some of that, but I wanted it to go a little further, and I think they wanted you to want it to go a little further. I thought the introduction of Terry Silver, which if you guys have seen the trailer at all, you know he's in there, but I thought him coming in was awesome. I just thought that really made the season. And I loved how they played his character. And I loved how they kind of explained away Karate Kid 3 as like he was on basically drugs the entire time, which is why he did all that stuff. Because it seemed really weird that like this old man was like punking this kid. This rich old man was punking this kid, right? Like if you've seen Karate Kid Part 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you have, like the whole premise of that movie was weird.
Sure.
And so like they explained away like, oh man, I was so hopped up on drugs back then that, I did that thing, and so I liked how they wrote all of it was just beautiful. And I was hoping for a little bit different ending than what actually happened. I thought the ending was fine, and I thought it left a lot of things open for the next season, which was fun. But, I was hoping for like a different reveal. And I don't, like I said, again, don't want to get too much into spoilers, but I was hoping for a little bit different reveal there. So, but overall, I liked it. And Tim, I binge watched it in like 2 days. I devoured it. It was great. So, and when the next season comes out, I'm going to do the exact same thing, which is why you don't have to pay for an entire year of Netflix just to get Cobra Kai. So, binge watch the thing in 2 days.
Right.
So, but I think that does it for all the stuff I've been watching. I just started trying to watch the After Party on Apple TV Plus, but I don't know if that's going to be worth your time yet. I've only seen the first episode and I wasn't super impressed with it. But The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Season 4 comes out on Prime, Tim, middle of the month. Looking forward to that for sure. I'm trying to think of anything else I'm looking forward to at the moment. Another one that I was looking forward to was Hawkeye, but I haven't even seen a minute of it. So it's like, I don't know. It was hard. I mean, it's just hard for that to fit into my schedule. And even though all the episodes are out now, I don't know if I'm going to get around to watching it. So who knows? But anyway, and I still haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home. So yeah, time to go to the movie theater. It just takes too much time. So I think it comes out at the end of the month or like at the beginning of March. So I may just have to wait till it comes out on demand and buy it because I don't think I'm going to have time to go to the movie theater between now and then. Okay, Tim, let's wrap this thing up. You got anything else before we head out?
No, I just want to thank everybody again, and we look forward to doing these shows. Thank you for participating, and whatever, keep sending those questions in.
Absolutely.
You make the show.
Like we said at the end of the other show, you guys make the show. You guys being here, obviously, asking the questions and also asking the questions via our email. That's definitely what makes the whole show. Without you guys, there is no show. So thank you guys for being here tonight, for watching this either live or after the fact, and for your support. It really means a lot to us. Tim, we may actually release a video in the middle of the month. Look at that.
Wow.
How long has it been since we released like a video? Yeah, just a little bit.
It's been a minute.
But I think I finished editing a video. I think I did. And so I just have to get some approvals on it. And then if everything goes, we may see it come out at the middle of the month. So there you go. Nice. John says Spider-Man No Way Home is great. And don't forget about Ozark. Tim, have you seen any of Ozark? Because I know the new season's out.
I have seen some of it.
So I know I watched a little bit myself, and I know it's good. I think I only watched like part of the first season, so I'm not that far along. But I know the new season is out. And Geeklight says Hawkeye is a good watch, and hopefully I can get around to that sometime soon. Geeklight. So anyway, but again, if you guys want to contact us between this live show and the next, questions at arcaderepairtips.com. Tim, looking forward to March. There's a birthday coming up, if I remember correctly.
Somebody has one.
I think it's you.
Sure.
Is that correct?
They're coming around pretty.
I hear it once a year. Yes. So Tim, the next live show will be on the 3rd, which will be after your birthday, correct? So there you go. So Tim will have already turned. So if you want to wish Tim a happy birthday real quick, you can. But next time we do this, I will give you your gift on your birthday, and if you want to open it on the live show, you can. Or if you would like to just open it on your birthday, that's fine too. So
okay.
But anyway, good night, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Have fun this February. Do some nice things. Hope you have a great Valentine's Day with whoever your significant other is. And we look forward to seeing you in March for Tim's birthday. Take care, everybody. Good night. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you next month.